Hey everybody, how's it going? This is rhouse21 and I've got my helper Nathan with me today. Say hi, Nathan.
Hi. Hi, Nathan.
Okay, so what we're doing today is we're actually going to be doing a bearing swap on this Team Associated Apex. You okay, Nathan? Okay, so we're doing a bearing swap on this Team Associated Apex. Okay, it's got pretty decent steel bearings from the factory, but we're switching over to Boca bearings, lightning bearings. So,
yeah, that's lightning bearings.
That's right. So if you look right here, you've got the part number, as you can see right here, and I'll get nice and close so you can pull that from the video. But this actually works. The Boca website does not actually say Team Associated Apex, but the Apex is very, very mechanically similar to another Team Associated short Porsche truck model. So I'll go ahead and I'll splice in the appropriate what the equivalent Team Associated car is. But basically, Team Associated took that platform, which is a great platform, and they turned it into a ready-to-run on-road car. So, but to do what I need to do, you know, going a step beyond the stock bearings to ceramics just makes a lot of sense. So, So this video is going to be structured pretty much like most of my other bearing swaps. So this car actually is very similar in a lot of ways to a scaled down Traxxas X01 or Traxxas /4x4, which is one of the reasons why I like the platform to begin with. But I'll go in, I'll point out some of the differences, some of the similarities as we go through. But this should be a fairly straightforward job. So this is going to be very similar structure to some of the other videos I've done. So I'm going to start off by giving a quick overview of the car. Then I'm going to break it apart because this is a modular chassis, just like just like I said with the Slash and the X01. So it comes apart in the three main sections, and then I'll do each of those sections individually. All right, but let's just start off by saying the tools that we're going to need for this job. One of the things I like about the Apex platform is the fact that it really doesn't need a lot of tools. So primarily what you're going to need are your standard set of metric tools. So most RCs in this size class, typically use a 1.5 millimeter, 2 millimeter, and 2.5 millimeter set. So I've got this nice little Turnkey multi-tool here that has bits that has all those sizes here. Like for example, this is a 1.5 and 2.5 millimeter. But I also, to speed some things along, I've got my nice Ryobi here that's got interchangeable bits and got these as well. So I've actually got non-stock gearing on here. So the gears inside of here actually, the set screw, instead of using 1.5 millimeter like we have in the factory, it actually takes a 1/16. So, and that's something that you find. So, fortunately, this little tool here has both metric and English. So I can do it with that. So just keep in mind when you're doing the job, you just need to understand, what size your set screw is for your pinion. Actually, I don't even, I don't even need to pull the pinion off to do this job. But, okay, enough said. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. So this car has been highly modified, and those of you who've been keeping track of my social media, you've seen this thing before. But this is, let's call it Project Vertex, Tex for short. And this is a 100+ mile/hour speed runner. Now I've got fully fiberglass body, custom paint. You can actually see here nice little details where I've left some areas unpainted so you can actually see through the clear fiberglass. So I just thought that was a cool feature. I also have a Contour GPS enabled camera that I use for onboard video. So got the integrated camera mount here. So this is definitely not stock, just to handle the aerodynamics at over 100 miles an hour. And because I'm an aerospace engineer and I like to do weird things, I built a custom underbody tray, which is modeled after the X01, but that just comes off. But after you do that, remove those things, then this car starts to look more like a stock Team Associated Apex. When I say more. Other quick modifications, as you can kind of see, I've gotten rid of the battery hold downs that come from the factory. So I replaced it with these wing nuts so I can put much larger batteries in here. The power systems have been upgraded twice now. I went from the stock setup to a Castle Mamba Max Pro SCT setup here with a 5700 kV motor. And this is a great ESC, by the way. It can handle up to 6S. So it was intended to do some high-speed speed runs, but I've gotten really into data logging now. So thanks to my good friends at Castle, you know, I've received a number of Mamba X ESCs, which is mechanically the same. I mean, this is the predecessor to that, but Castle's gone the next step where you now have a fully aluminum chassis to help with heat dissipation. You have an integrated cat pack to try to reduce ripple voltage. It still handles 6S. It's slightly larger, so in my case, in order to fit it in the car, I had to make a separate 3D, I had to 3D print a little device here to put it in. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But you know, overall, you know, so now I've got a Mamba X with a Castle 1406 5700 censored motor in to take the place of the sensorless setup. So this car has aspirations for, you know, 110, 120 miles an hour or more. I don't know. We're going to find out. But okay, but quick overview of this platform. As you can see, it's a 10th scale on-road. It's very similar to some of the other Team Associated you know, shaft-driven car platforms. It's kind of weird though, is that for some reason they decided to switch, you know, the side that the battery and electronics is on. I don't know if that's just so that people can easily recognize which is which. You know, it doesn't really do a whole lot, you know, different mechanically. But one of the things about this car from the factory is that it's made to be a ready to run vehicle. So you have fixed length suspension arms all throughout here. And I want some adjustability, so I went ahead and I basically built my own turnbuckles using Team Associated parts that I can now adjust the geometry of the suspension if I need to. Other than that, also I changed the motor mounts, not the motor mounts, I changed the body mounts to, these are actually Traxxas, same ones that they use for the Rally and the X01. I also modified it with the ProLine screw-on body mounts as well, to just make life a little bit easier getting in and out of the car. But that being said, it's a pretty solid platform, so I really like it. So let's go ahead and start by getting this guy apart. So this car, like I said, is very similar to some of the other setups out there where to make it easily serviceable, it actually comes apart. So it separates into three major pieces. You have the central chassis, the front clip, and the rear clip. So I'll start off by separating the rear clip from the car. So I've already done a little bit of tear down on here. So I'll just start off by removing the receiver. For me, I just have the receiver, you know, receiver stuck with some industrial string Velcro to the central body brace. And also another non-stock item on this car, you see I have this, this is actually a temperature sensor. If you click the card, you can go to the video where you can see where I initially installed this here. But I've taken it to the next level and put in a 3D printed little bracket to go on here so that this fits nice and clean. It looks like it's supposed to be there. But, okay, so I can go ahead and start off by getting this guy out of here. Well, actually, when I pulled this off, I'll pull it through there. But on this car, the central brace is held on by 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the back. And it has this separate wing piece that comes off here. Then you also have 4 screws on the front, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 more screws, 1 and 2, that hold this piece on. So once you pull those off, this piece just pops right off. First, let me get the receiver out of here, and then get this out of here, like that. So, also for my application, I had to mill out a little bit of a chunk of this brace so that my pinion gear can fit in there. But this comes off like that. Okay, so now, once you get in here, generally, well, there's this little piece right here that holds your spur and the gear in place as well. So I'd already removed that, so that comes off. And I'll just set this aside. So now, the rest of the rear end is being held on by a set of 6 screws 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3 in the triangular pattern to hold the back clip on, and then 3 more to hold down the motor mount. So we'll go ahead and pull those guys off.
I'll be right there.
Now be careful with these two on the side because they're not screwed into the chassis itself. There's 2 little 4mm locking nuts on the back side that these guys screw into. So if you're not careful, those little locking nuts can drop off and disappear into nowhere, never to be seen again. So you can see that there's one there,
It's a lot.
and there's one there. So
It's a lot.
that's right. So I had to be very careful because I almost lost them and I had to go on a search expedition to find them. All right, so here, these 3 go directly into the motor mount structure, here, here, and here. To get the rear clip off, you really only need to remove this one fully. And these, you can just loosen them up. All right, so now, the rear clip is free, and I can just go ahead and.
Daddy, look, I'm
Where's
so
the-
responsible. Oh, sorry to interrupt. Seems like you're making a video.
Yes, I am. But thank you, responsible Robin.
I just took out my trash. Well, I guess you need to edit this part out.
Okay. Well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. All right. So all you need to do is just loosen this up a little bit. Doesn't have to come out fully. Although it might just be easier for you just to pull the thing out together. But there we go. And this comes out together as a unit. Now, again, differences. So most of you guys aren't going to be dealing with your own custom temperature probe that you have to wrestle out. But also, another thing that I've done on this car, which is different. This is the actual stock drive shaft for Team Associated Apex. And I believe the TC4 uses the exact same one. And it's not a bad shaft. So it's actually held on with these little plastic pieces that fit in the output shaft of the, or I should say this is the, actually it's an output shaft, coming from the spur gear. And this little plastic piece fits right on just like that. My problem is that when I get this car up above 60 or so miles an hour, this drive shaft is not very, it's not that stiff. So to try to, because the drive shaft is not that stiff, it essentially bows under the pressure, and the dog bones at the end help that process happen. So it bows out, and as you see, there's this flat spot here because it actually bowed into a U shape as it was spinning and was slapping up on the internal structure of the car. That's not good. So to try to get around that, I 3D printed up a replacement adapter piece so I can now use a cut down Traxxas slash 4x4 drive shaft, which is much thicker, as you can see from the little, you can see from the cross section. It's a very stiff unit. Guys have actually taken slash 4x4s using stock shafts up to over 150 miles an hour. So I think that, much larger car, much more power going through it, handles just fine. So I think it'd be just fine for this application. All right, so again, similarities and differences. All right, let me put this back on so I don't, I should need to take that off anyway. All right, so this is the rear end separated. So I'll just set this over here. So now let's go ahead and get the front end off. So for the front end, now you can see that we've got the steering arms exposed. So if you look at it from the top side, you'll see that it's very similar, where you've got a screw that's back in here. Nathan, are you okay? Nathan, why don't you go get a drink of water? Okay, so as you can see, there's a screw holding that down in here. So basically you've got very similar structure here where you've got 1, 2, 3 screws holding on the foot clip, and I think that's pretty much all I need to do. So let's go ahead and pull those guys off. And there it goes. So now, the last piece is to go ahead and separate this turnbuckle. Actually, it's not even a turnbuckle, it's just a solid steering arm. So I use my new nose pliers just to get in here and pop this guy off. And be careful with these guys, because as you know, it doesn't take a whole lot to just permanently damage a piece. So just use enough force to get it done, but just be mindful of it. Yeah, this one doesn't want to come off. There we go. All right. So now, and as you can see, because I took the screws off, the steering arms just kind of flop around here now. All right. So I've successfully separated the front and rear clip. So as you can see, with this car, there are no bearings in the center chassis. So this guy, I can just set aside. And now we focus in on the front and the rear.